And I know one woman who would like to have more powerful conservative women with her on Capitol Hill is Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, who is with us on the phone. Congresswoman, it's great to have you with us.
Hey, thank you so very much. I love being on the program. Thanks for the invitation. There's always something interesting going on in the world.
That's certainly true. And we're always honored to have you here. We were just talking about some of these conservative women who have a good shot, not just in the House, but in the Senate. What would it mean for you to have more like-minded women like yourself in Congress?
Well, what a difference it would make. For example, in our Republican-led Foreign Affairs Committee, I'm the only woman on that committee, Republican woman. What a difference it would make if we elected more Republican women and had them have a great interest in what is America's relationship around the globe. You look at all the hot spots in the world, it makes a world of difference. And I'm a good friend of Shelley Moore Capito, and there's now he's announced that he's not going to run for re-election because Shelley scared him off. But hats off to Shelley, because she announced while he was still there.
Yeah, she has someone who works a lot behind the scenes, maybe not a frontline name for people who casually follow politics, but certainly has a lot of respect. You mentioned how crucial it could be to have more women on the House Foreign Relations Committee. Let's talk about some of those issues I know that you're very concerned about right now, and we've been following here closely on the program, namely the Ukraine, where the protest continues. We're seeing reports now the death toll maybe just today alone as high as 100 people killed in the streets, these protesters. We've heard from the president now deciding that he wants to get involved and weigh in on the situation. A question I asked Mr. Patton not long ago, and I want to ask you as well, do you think that these pleas from the president to Yanukovych are falling on deaf ears?
I think so, because we've waited way too long. This has been simmering for a long time. The big protest began in November, as we know, when the president of Ukraine rejected this expected deal for closer integration with the European Union. But they're also an expression of the resentment that's been long simmering against the corruption and the economic mismanagement of the government. And for the president of Ukraine, he signed this horrible anti-protest law that restricted free speech and restricted media from criticizing the government. So protesters obviously have been taken to the streets, and they've seized regional government buildings and all over the country. And what we've seen is a deliberate targeting of journalists by the government. The prime minister of the country said, they resigned. The mayor of Kiev resigned also in protest over this bloodshed. And now Obama says we're going to do this visa ban on 20 top Ukrainian officials, but it's taken an awfully long time. The violence.
Yeah, you would say that move should have been taken long ago. What other steps could be done at this point, and what are you going to be talking about with your colleagues on the House Foreign Relations Committee when you get back to Washington, D.C.?
Well, we have been working with all of the panelists in our committee, and Elliot Engel and Ed Royce had passed a resolution that we hope it will be followed up with real sanctions. We've got to do these targeted sanctions on all these government officials. The videos are clear. You can see who these people are. They've committed these acts, or they ordered it, or they supported acts of violence against peaceful citizens in Ukraine. And it's been a true rollback of democracy movements in Ukraine. But it's a shame that same statement is not being made to help the peaceful student protesters in Venezuela, where they have also taken to the streets, and they are unarmed, and the police and the Cuban forces with the Venezuelan forces are beating them. There have been deaths in Venezuela as well, and we need to have those targeted sanctions. And I have a bill with Albio Sirius of New Jersey to say anyone who commits these human rights violations should not be allowed in our country. This is a privilege to come to the United States. It's not a right.
Congressman David Patton has a question he wants to ask you on that topic.
Hey, Congresswoman.
Hi.
Let's be frank, though. I mean, putting some visa sanctions or some sanctions on these officials, whether the Ukrainians or the Venezuelans, I think you would agree that while it's a positive first step, probably should have been taken a long time ago, it's not likely to get them to stop shooting on their own people in the case of Ukraine. Is there anything more robust that you would be willing to consider at some point? What would it take for the United States, for example, to begin sending aid to some of these people who are, after all, fighting for their freedom and suffering grievously for it right now?
Well, I think it's lamentable that the United States has taken the back seat in so many of these crises that we've seen overseas. I understand that people are war fatigued with Iraq and Afghanistan, and Karzai is not helping us one bit. And so people say, forget about these guys. But we see this bloodshed never ending in Syria. We see human rights protesters being shot and killed in Ukraine, student leaders, peaceful dissidents in Venezuela also being shot and killed.
We got to go, Congresswoman. We'll have much more. We'll have you back, of course, and talk more about the situation in Venezuela, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be resolved anytime soon. And we'll be back with more with David Patton as well. America's Forum will continue right here on Newsmax TV right after this.